Group of speakers today, excluding this one. I am Mike May. I'm president of Brightspot, also the past chairman of IRF. We will share some data and research from IRF today. If you're not already following the IRF, I'd highly encourage you to register. It's free. You'll get the best research in the industry. You can do that at theirf.org. Also have with me today Kelly Coons, who's our Director of Incentives, as well as a past president of Site Texas. So hello, Kelly.
Hello, good afternoon.
And then we have Rudy Garza, our Vice President of, we call him Vice President of Operations, but at Brightspot, he's really Vice President of everything. So Rudy, glad to have you join us today. And so this is part of what we call our What to Expect series. Next week, we'll have one that specifically drills down to channel rewards. Brightspot works with a lot of technology clients, software companies, those that distribute through two tiers and use resellers, distributors, and agents. So next week will be more tailored to that. Also, we've done 3 of these in the past. If you see the right-hand side of the screen, last month we did the next normal for incentive travel, the next normal for meetings, the next normal for roadshows. If those topics are of more interest to you, you should go to our website, look at our blogs. You'll find the transcripts of each of those, or you can go to our YouTube channel and you can watch or listen to those sessions, each of which were about 30 minutes. We will take questions, so if you want to hit that little circle and send in chats throughout the day, we'll be doing that. And then for the sake of introduction, I want to start with something that I call the curve. One of the most fascinating things that we read at Brightspot during the pandemic is this study and briefing paper from the MBAs over at McKinsey & Company. And they had these fascinating different shaped curves about what will the recovery look like. On the left axis, you see that it's really driven by the effectiveness of the public health policies. If the public health policies are effective, things like the shutdown, we may move higher on those quadrants. Across the bottom are the effects of the governmental economic policies that were put in place and a lot of the trillions of dollars that were pumped into the economy. The absolute best case for all of us on the call would be the upper right quadrant of A4, which would represent a V-shaped recovery. So Rudy and I and our team, at different times, we voted what we thought the recovery would look like. CEOs across America voted, and the most common was either A3 or A1 in the middle. So I'm going to drill down on A1, just as kind of a center one here. And what that looks like is that the virus recurs, and that's what the squiggly line on this Nike swoosh represents. So if it's going upward, we're doing better job controlling the virus. If it dips down, that might mean a regional outbreak like we're seeing in India or Brazil right now. And a slow or moderate recovery, which is the slope of the graph. What's fascinating to me is when we overlay the S&P 500, that we see Wall Street has bounced back very strongly, as we know in our 401ks, with more of a V-shaped recovery. And at this point, Wall Street is moving faster than Main Street. That's encouraging to us because we believe that means smart money is predicting that the Main Street recovery will follow fairly shortly. And one of the other things in this McKinsey paper that really got our attention was it talked about reimagining the next normal. So across our Brightspot business, we reimagined every segment of our business, and that's what led to these webinars. They've been the most popular thing we've ever done. They were probably 4x, 4 times the attendance of anything we've ever done. And I think it shows that people are really looking, they're ready to look forward and see what things are going to look like in the days ahead, and not just what we've been dealing with today. So the goal here, our intro slide shows our belief that while Q2 was affected by the virus, we're going to see things trending up in Q3, which is where the carrot is, and in Q4 we show the trophy or the recognition. It's our belief that what we're going to show you today and talk about is that in Q3 and Q4, we're going to see a demand for a lot of short-term incentives with the goal of PG. So Kelly, what is PG?
That would be pipeline generation, Mr. May.
Yeah, pipeline generation. So we think PG is going to be a big goal for the rest of this year. It's always a goal, but we believe it's going to be even stronger. So our topics we're going to cover today, there are actually 10 points. 5 of them are in this first one that we call the 5 S's. There will be 5 words that begin with S. And then we're going to cover each of these others that are key incentive design concepts for sales incentive programs. So with that, we're going to start with concept number 1, which is simple. And here I yield the floor, I believe, to Rudy Garza.
Yeah, so thanks, Mike. Typically, if you go to the next slide, the first goal of planning any incentive trip is, or first step, is to establish the goal. And inevitably, a program owner or a client has a long list of goals that they want to attain, and typically that long list of goals leads to very complex rules, and those could include, limitations, splits, like they want to pay multiple people for a given incentive. They have multipliers, and so you can earn X, at this level and Y at the next level, and so forth. Or even worse, there's multiple spiffs running at the same time. And so all that leads just to a whole bunch of complex rules and leaves participants feeling dazed and confused. And so, as we know with most goals, it's important for them to be smart, but maybe an additional letter I'll add to that is another S for simple or simplicity. It's really important that goals are kept simple, and the tip is to resist the temptation to make it too complex. Mike mentioned the IRF that puts out amazing studies on a routine basis, and I believe this one was published back in March, and they did a survey of top performing companies, of I think 400 different top performing companies in the technology industry, financial industry, and manufacturing industry. And obviously all these top performing companies had things in common, and that is that they saw the importance of incentive programs for their employees. But more than that, they established simple metrics and use simple qualifying criteria. And so this first step is all about simplicity and offering simple rules for your incentive programs. And so again, if you go back to that analogy that we've all heard, KISS, I like to refer to it as keep it super simple.
Like that, super simple. I will say, to plug this study, of all of the studies I've seen from IRF, this is one of my top 3. There's a series of these top performing companies, top performing studies. So I would highly recommend those. And I'll add an anecdote. I was talking to a client up in a meeting in Boston pre-COVID, and it was a channel incentive. But when we shared this concept, everybody in the room nodded very demonstratively. So it's what we know, but I think many times, we forget that and overcomplicate things. So thanks for sharing that. Our next S is speedy. So Kelly?
That's right. So not only should a program be simple, it should be speedy to execute. So what does that mean? It's quick to execute, easy to communicate, easy to understand, but also you can engage your audience quickly with it. We're saying keep it simple, keep it speedy. Q3, Q4 are not far away, and they're only a few months each. So this is a time to really be ready to execute. Now, something that we've done at Brightspot is come up with some nice plug and play promotions. Each one, as we drill down into these, there's something for everyone, but there's also something for every budget. So we looked at our different demographics across all the companies that we work with, and we find, we found something for Pamper Yourself for our more female-centric audience. And next you'll see something for the gamer. And after that one, the Grill Master. As we're spending more time at home, more time with our families, it's nice to have options at different levels to engage with different demographics, different audiences, and different budgets. And then last but not least, I believe it's the Cool Parent. Again, really playing to all that time we're spending at home and with our families. But what you saw with each of these is different tiers, that serve different budgets differently. But what's great about them is these execute super quickly, and it gives you something to promote.
Yeah, that's really good, Kelly. So we wanted to kind of be very open. At Brightspot, we believe in sharing value with not just customers, but prospects. So, this is actually a series of concepts that we presented to a couple of our clients, and they've had tremendous reception. I think everybody is looking for something simple that can launch quickly. And once upon a time, we had a nickname of these types of programs that we call Just Add Water, which is like my type of baking kit at the store where you just pick it up and only have to add water. So in this case, it's just adding the fuel of the award. So thanks, Kelly. Next is symbolic. This is right in Rudy's wheelhouse.
Yeah, so a little bit later, we're going to be talking about the different types of awards and the concept of a power of choice. But now we just want to talk about alternate ways to show appreciation. I think Gallup will tell us that one of the most fundamental needs that any employee has is the need to be appreciated and or recognized. And when you appreciate and recognize your employees, that will lead to higher engagement, which ultimately leads to higher retention, which is what we all want. And so if you go to the next slide, when COVID-19 hit, we were all forced to stay home, right? We had all these states issued stay-at-home orders, shelter-in-place orders, and so everything now revolved around the home. And so alternate ways of recognizing your employees are illustrated here on this slide. So a spa day at home, so put together a package of everything that they need to create that same spa experience at home. Distraction or noise canceling headphones. Most of us had children who were forced to do remote learning as well, and those distraction or noise canceling headphones really could come in handy at that time and or now in the summertime as kids are out of school. My family likes to go out to movies a lot, and we weren't able to do so, so we're watching movies at home now more often. Even the movie industry is releasing movies digitally direct to the digital format. And so again, we're all watching more movies, and then here's a way to create a better experience for that at home. And then most offices offer free coffee in their office, be it a Keurig or any other type of coffee, and why not create that same experience for the home place when they're stuck at home. And so these are just different alternative ways that you can demonstrate appreciation and recognition for your employees. One more, maybe something extra that I'll add to this slide is my wife and I were supposed to be going to Italy a few weeks ago. That trip got canceled because of the pandemic. And so we recently celebrated a milestone anniversary, and so since we weren't able to go on our trip, we brought the trip home, and we had a chef come into our home and create an amazing romantic Italian dinner for us. And it was a cooking class as well, so it was interactive, and so we brought the experience home. So that's just another way that you can demonstrate appreciation for your employees.
Wow, Rudy, what a great idea. I'm glad my wife wasn't on the call to hear this. She might realize what a subpar husband I am. I thought you were going to say you went out to the neighborhood Italian place, but you brought it in. So really great. I will echo, we just had an all-employee call today and talked about how we think gift card programs are going to be really popular in Q3 and Q4 for just things like you pointed out, Rudy, with the movie night. Let's go to our number 4 S word, which is short.
That's right. Thanks, Mike. So here you see a few of the steps that we target to get a program up and running. But what we see is a lot of clients spend too much time on that very first step, which is planning. This really isn't the time to spend 3 months in the concept phase, but this is time to be nimble, to get a program out the door, up and running and easily. So one thing that, is great about our software that we offer internally called Ignite is that, first of all, it's the software that powers all of our incentive programs. Let's see, it's on the next slide. But what's great about that is it offers flexible branding, custom offers, and measurable results. But when you're looking for a third party to execute a a sales incentive, not only should it be short and sweet, it should be short and sweet to execute. So by utilizing software that is considered off the shelf, the best thing about it is that it offers that speed to execution.
Good, good. Kelly, so Kelly used to be in sales, now she's moved to operations. So she used to be in the business of promising very short turnarounds, but how quickly do you think we could launch a sales incentive contest with this Ignite platform?
Now, as long as we follow Rudy's advice and keep it simple, we can have something up and running in 2 weeks.
Yeah, good. Okay. Let's see. And the last S, after covering simple, speedy, symbolic, and short, is substitute.
Yes.
So Rudy, what's this?
Yes, I love this one because in this one we ask our audience to remember the Rainmaker, and the concept of the Rainmaker are those employees that are your top performers and the ones who are truly driving your company's performance. And so they had a great 2019 and we're all set to go on a fantastic 2020 incentive travel program, be it to some great beach destination or to Europe or on a cruise or maybe a golf trip. And then COVID-19 happened and all that got wiped out. And so as I'm sure our audience saw, a lot of these trips got either canceled and or postponed, in some cases postponed to next year. And so as these were happening over time, I kept asking, what about the winners? What about the people who qualified for these trips that are now being canceled and or postponed? What about the Rainmakers and so forth? And so I believe it was that same study that we referenced earlier that talked about how these top performing companies recognize the value of different types of awards. And so while these incentive travel programs have been either canceled and or postponed, one of the things that we encourage companies to do is to substitute that award for other types of awards, be it points and or merchandise and or gift cards. Again, so the pro tip here is to remember the Rainmaker.
Yeah. Yeah, and Rudy, this was actually a study that IRF released last week called the COVID-19 disruption study. So a very timely study. And I'd love to grab a digital highlighter and just highlight your comment, which became a common refrain in our internal meetings about rescheduling, is what are people going to do now? Because we did have several clients who maybe postponed a trip from this April to next April. And Rudy was the one in the room saying, okay, next April is a long time away. I'm sure they're going to appreciate going to Los Cabos or Hawaii, but what are they going to do in the meantime? So, what this IRF study did point out is a lot of companies were either replacing or supplementing with these other types of rewards. So great work. So that completes the first half of what we called the 5 S's. Now we're going to talk about what to me is one of the most fascinating concepts I've seen in the last couple of years. That is reach, which also comes out of that top performing study, but I think it's something that will be very applicable in Q3 of Q4 of this year, and that is reach over exclusivity.
Yes, so more than ever as we come out of this post-COVID world, reach is going to be even more important. Back in the day of President's Club trips and quota clubs, it was all about exclusivity and only being allowed to a certain number of individuals who did a certain thing. But as we move forward, it's going to be more about reach and making people feel connected and included and considered. So coming out of this, the one tip to keep in mind is, be inclusive. Think about everyone. How can you include them? And remember that a little bit can go a long way.
Yeah, that's, in a real life example, one of our technology clients is doing kind of a 3-tier program where they had to cancel their club trip. So they're going to do a mini club trip for, I think it's maybe 20 or 30 winners. I believe they're going to go to Las Vegas. So, instead of 4 or 5 nights in the Caribbean or Mexico, this is going to be, I think, 3 nights to Las Vegas. So a short trip for, I believe it's for Q2, Q3 sales qualifications. So that's the top tier award, but then to add reach, they're adding a lot of second tier awards, which are things like merchandise and gift cards. So I think it's a perfect example of what we're going to see more and more in the second half of this year. Yeah, there's a little tip from at the bottom. Top performers emphasize reach. Okay, now we're going to talk about another fascinating concept, the power or the motivational power of choice. So, Rudy?
The POC, as I like to say, we always like using acronyms. So POC, or power of choice. You know, I like to answer the question that's posed on the slide there, what's the best reward? I like to answer that question with the question, and that is, what would best motivate your target audience? And so that is what we care most about. Is it merchandise? Is it gift cards? Is it other non-travel related experiences? I mentioned cooking class earlier. There's hot air balloon rides. There's racing experiences and so forth. And so what would best motivate your target audience? And so the concept of power of choice is let the participant decide what they would like. And so, you know, if it's a points program, then offer within that points program merchandise awards, gift cards awards, and other non-travel related experiences as well. And so one thing though that we would add, or that I would add, is that while choice is good and it is motivational, sometimes too much choice is not so good. Too much choice can be overwhelming, but simply put, the power of choice is motivational for participants.
Yeah, so we think that's going to be a really important concept in Q3 and Q4 to mentally engage that audience and get what we call daydream value going. So Kelly, I know this is your hot button of all things, and one of your passions is creative communications.
That's true, and it's not just one of my passions, but it's truly a competitive difference for Brightspot. We are passionate about creativity and passionate about communications, because the last thing we'd want to see is your sales incentive become the best kept secret. So more than ever, with all that's going on in the world, you know, this is the time to stand out. Whether it's plug and play, a spiff, sales incentive, make an effort to rise above the noise. So as we work with our clients to counsel them, the goals that, you know, we target them on: one, get attention of your audience. What can we do to get their mind share? And then lastly, be cohesive, creative, and concise. So post-COVID, place an emphasis on both creativity and communications.
Yeah, this is what I view as the #1 unfunded, underfunded aspect of incentive programs, and probably the most common mistake is that people shortcut communications and think that just one email to the sales team is going to be enough to communicate and promote. This is another one that I believe is going to be hugely important in Q3 and Q4, because we've all been so distracted all year and we've been pulled so many different ways that I believe sales leaders are going to spend some dedicated time trying to figure out where to focus their people to drive the right kind of pipeline. Let's see. Yeah, so here's you know, something that we call a behavioral incentive. You know, and the pink describes where reps usually struggle with a complex sale. Your traditional spiff is the gray line at the bottom that says to the rep, if you can figure it out, you will earn this spiff. But what we've worked with a lot of clients is to break down the sales process across the top, which could be learnings, demos, proof of concept. Again, that's something that we believe we're going to see a lot of in Q3, Q4 as people so sales leaders focus people's attention, particularly, I think, as you look down that list, as they think about deal registration, to register the deal so that maybe a technical engineer or a technical seller can join in it, or the third from the bottom, subscriptions. You know, that's become a big emphasis as many companies are moving their products to the cloud or trying to trying to figure out ways to get recurring revenue. So I believe those will be things we're going to see a lot of Q3 and Q4 as those sales leaders focus people. And let's see, number 10, virtual awards. So who gets this one?
Yeah, I'll chime in here, Mike. So obviously, again, when COVID-19 hit, everything went virtual, right? So we were, again, stuck at home. I've used Zoom in the last 3 months, and I have in the last 3 years, and I bet that would be the case for most people out there. And so everything went virtual. Well, another thing that's up are virtual cards. And so be it virtual prepaid cards or e-gift cards, those are on the rise. And so we would highly recommend those for participants because if you think about physical cards, it takes time to produce those and then time to ship those. But virtual cards, prepaid cards, or e-gift cards can be fulfilled almost immediately. And so as soon as somebody completes their required incentive step, then boom, they can get their award. One of the things that we often preach around here is a phrase called the immediacy of awards, and that is to as immediate as possible as to be able to award participants for the behavior that they just completed. And virtual prepaid cards, e-gift cards allows you to do that, especially while the award, while the behavior is still fresh in their minds. And so it's always a good recommendation that we have for clients to use virtual prepaid cards or e-gift cards. And on the opposite end of the extreme spectrum is where there's a delay in fulfilling those rewards. If there is a delay, that can lead to dissatisfaction on the part of the participant, which then could lead to disengagement. And so that's the last thing that you want for your incentive programs. So again, we highly recommend virtual cards.
Good. Let's see. So with that, we're going to get tips and takeaways from Kelly and hear a passionate speech, and then we'll have Q&A.
Set the bar pretty high there, Mike. Let's see. Well, as we wrap up, one thing I want you to take away is be ready. Q3, Q4 are just around the corner. The best thing you can do for your sales org is not to be reactive, but to take this time and to proactively plan. So that's our plea, just be ready. If there's anything you heard today, add focus with a spiff. They're simple, they're speedy, kind of our old tried and true friend, the spiff. Don't be shy when it comes to getting something simple and speedy out the door. Again, tried and true advice, keep it simple, easy to understand, easy to rise above the noise. This next one, I'm not going to throw any clients under the bus, but a lot of times they come to us for ideas and for counsel, and we put great plans in place, but then it's 3-4 months before anything ever executes, if it executes. So we would just want, more than anything, for our clients to just do something, whether it be small or just a small creative piece, just do something to get in front of your org. And then last but not least, shameless plug, hire Brightspot. Not only are we ready, we're ready to share ideas and we're ready to execute.
Yeah, certainly we're trying to share ideas here, but we have platforms and catalogs ready to go if people need to launch quickly. And I like what you said about do something, Kelly. That aligns with Rudy's symbolic. I believe salespeople are going to be starved in Q3, Q4 for just a little bit of a, pat on the back, a little bit of a symbolic sign that management believes in them by spending a little bit of money on some sales contests. So with that, we're going to go into Q&A. And as a reminder, you can click the cartoon bubble and hit that to send in your questions. And one other reminder, again, next week, channel rewards, we'll morph some of these ideas into being specifically about channel or partner incentives or distributor incentives. And then remember those blogs and videos if you want to listen, if any of those other areas are especially relevant. So with that, go to Q&A. Let's see, Michael, have we had any questions come in today?
Yes, first one up. Mike, how are you guys counseling to support clients who may have reduced budgets for a program?
Yeah, sure. So, we've definitely seen that. I feel like we keep saying that word symbolic. I think it's just important to symbolically maintain that the company is doing something. Even at Brightspot, we had to make certain areas where we made cost cuts, but one of the things that we didn't change was our recognition and incentives, where we are rewarding people for anniversary, or even today we had something we called Living Our Values Awards, and we recognized, I think, 6 people for living our values and executing against those, and each of those will get a virtual e-gift card, as Rudy was talking about. But yeah, as people have reduced budgets, we've either pulled back on the quantity of awards or the dollar of awards. I think probably pulling back on the dollars is a little bit better. I think people understand right now that economically, some businesses are going through a tough time. But if you keep the quantity the same, you touch more people. And I think right now the touches are more important than the value. So again,
yeah, I was going to add on to that too, Mike, just with the concept that KK mentioned with regards to reach. And so it has to do with touching more people. So yeah, so we definitely, if one was forced to choose between the two, to reduce the dollars, but keep the quantity.
Good.
All right, next one up. About what would you say would the lead time be for one of these plug and play promotions?
KK, you want that
Sure. Those go pretty quickly. We can, as long as you pick one, we can have those out the door in about 2 weeks' time, if not shorter.
Yeah, good. Yeah, and even the fact that we've done some of the legwork, there's some assets that could be promoted very quickly. KK, what about if somebody needs a website, whether it's the gift card catalog or if they need a claim form? What are those things that go quickly with Ignite, and what are the places that things slow down?
You know what? As soon as we have detailed offers, that's honestly the hardest part. It's just counseling the client to give us exactly what we need to turn a website on. Website takes a week, maybe 2, and then graphic design about a week. But all in all, it's a 2-week turn time.
Good.
All right, looks like we have one more here. Do you recommend many smaller awards in lieu of the incentive travel reward? Basically, if you have an incentive travel program pushed back till next year, do you recommend smaller rewards spaced out, or do you recommend one larger reward in the meantime, kind of leading up to it?
Well, I'll jump in. I think either could be great. We often talk about knowing your audience, and so knowing what may make the most sense in your audience. I'd probably use a cutoff, a compensation cutoff. If your audience makes more than 100,000, if you have highly compensated sales reps, I'd probably say go big with one big prize. If they're less than 100 in comp, then I'd say touch them multiple times with some smaller prizes. But either works. And honestly, if you did it one way last year, I would say do it differently this year. Much as Rudy was talking about the power of choice being motivational, I think the power of change is another motivational. We often call it keep it fresh.
Mike, something extra I might add there is, as we have been pivoting our trips to more, prepaid cards and gift cards, what we've done is package them into a really nicely designed delivery. That way they're still getting a letter from the CEO, you're seeing their own logo, some nice branding and communication to go with those awards as they do pivot.
Good.
Yeah, and maybe one last thing I'll add, Mike, is going back to a couple of things that we talked about earlier, both the curve that you mentioned at the very beginning, and then near the end when KK said just do something. We all are hoping that the economy rebounds strongly and sooner rather than later. And I truly believe incentive programs can help us help the economy rebound. And so again, I just want to encourage participants or clients and program owners to just do something, right, to help drive that increased performance, that enhanced performance that can help rebound the economy.
Absolutely. Yeah. If I was a product marketing manager at a big enterprise company that sold 5 or 6 different products, I would definitely be looking at doing something, because there's been such a vacuum, it's the white space of anything in the market right now, that whoever comes out first in Q3, Q4, whether it be a product or a competitor, they're going to get good attention. So let's see, as we wrap up, one of the common questions that always comes up is, will the slides be available? The answer is yes. Our marketing team will push out copies of the slides before the end of business day tomorrow. We appreciate your time today. If for any reason you need to reach Kelly or me or Rudy, our email format is very simple: first name dot last name at brightspot.email. We'd be happy to help in any way, even if that's just offering an opinion or an idea. We believe in helping people and adding value, and if we do that, we think good things come in the end. So we're not necessarily all about just trying to twist somebody's arm and sell one more project, although we would welcome that as well. So thank you for your time today. We really appreciate you sharing your valuable asset, your time with us. We hope this has been helpful. Have a good June, and join us next week for Channel Rewards. Thank you.
Thanks.